Streets and Scholars, Alex Alonso and FG, here to bring you another banger. I got the General in the house.
No doubt.
And man, we just came off of probably one of the most exciting Super Bowl games in the history of Super Bowls, I think.
Man, you know what? I got to agree with you on that, bro. That mug was good. You know what I mean? Didn't like that last call, but at the same time, you know, it was what it was. But, man, that was a good game, though, Alex. They really balled out, though. I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't expect Jalen Hurts to ball out like that. Like I say, you know, I like his get down, but man, he was threading some needles on that thing, man. Whoever that tight end is they had over there in Philly, man, he was doing his thing, man. It was a group effort, man. They balled to the end, but at the end of the day, man, I'm gonna have to say Andy Reid outcoached him, man. You know what I mean? It came through.
In that second half.
Yeah, that second half, he went in there and made them adjustments, saw what he needed to do, and that's a real coach right there. You know, Andy Reid, like you say, you brought it to my attention that he's one of the guys, if not the only guy, I know one of them, who got 10 playoff wins with two separate teams. I love Andy Reid as a coach, man. You know, he's always going to coach his players up, coach them good, but Philly would just, I believe they let off the gas, you know. And that Jalen Hurts fumble didn't help. I believe that was a game changer. It didn't seem like it at the time, but it came back to bite him.
Well, when he fumbled the ball, they were threatening to score. And if they would have scored, it would have been 21-7 Philly.
No doubt. And that would have been hard to recover from.
Yeah. That's a hell of a blow, right?
No doubt. But at the same time, I can say, you know, a lot of people talking shit about that last call, right? You know, I just felt like it shouldn't have been called in a playoff or Super Bowl game, but it was. But at the same time, say if they didn't make the call, you know what I mean? Just because, say if KC would have only scored a field goal, that don't mean Philly would have went down there and did nothing. You know what I mean? I mean, they could have stopped and made them go 3 and out. That don't mean that really changed the game. You know what I mean? So, you know, at the same time, you know, refs ain't perfect. Got to take it from what it was. It was a hold. It just that type of hold usually not called in a playoff game. But man, that was a damn good game. I think that was the best Super Bowl I've seen in a very long time.
Now, why were a lot of people critical of that call? Was that was in the fourth quarter, right? That hold.
Fourth quarter, they was down near the scoring, the end zone. What it was when they made that call, it made it a first down. So that made KC be able to sit on the clock now. Now we can just damn near run out the clock.
Yeah.
That's what made it so crucial. You know what I mean? That we was now y'all could just, you know, like dude could have ran a touchdown. Stopped at and he was smart. They was thinking, you know, they really played the game. You know?
It looked like he almost forgot.
Right, he did. He was finna run up in that thing.
He was about to score a touchdown, and he was trying to stop the clock by tackling himself, I guess.
No doubt. A smart move, you know, well coached, you know, that it did pop in his head. But I'm thinking they probably was screaming on the sideline, get down.
Yeah.
He looked like he was finna run that thing up in there.
Yeah, I think that play should be illegal, actually.
Well, you know, man, when it comes to coaching, I mean, for your team to be aware of shit like that, like Patrick Mahomes was aware of that hold. I don't even think that's where he was going at the moment with the ball. I see Aaron Rodgers do that a lot. He seen the hole. He threw the ball in that direction. If you notice, he didn't even try to make it really throw him the ball. He threw it in that direction and started pointing hole. You know what I mean? And they called the flag on it. So certain quarterbacks, Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady's, shit, even Peyton Manning back in the day, bro, they'll make a ref throw their flag. You know what I mean? And that's the shit I don't like. But, you know, all in all, man, that was one of the best Super Bowls that's been played in a long time.
Yeah, I can't remember, and maybe somebody will correct me on this, or I don't know if you know, but when was the last time a Super Bowl was actually tied in the fourth quarter? Was it 35-35 in the fourth quarter?
35-35, man.
Tied in the fourth quarter with like 5 minutes to go.
Right. That could have went either way. And then speaking of when you said somebody correcting us on something, I just wanted to touch on last week when we was talking about the two black quarterbacks playing in the Super Bowl. We went on to have a few other conversations. Listen, when we get on Streets and Scholars, we have a few topics that we we got down packed that we talk about.
Yeah.
The rest of the shit we talk, Alice, we just talking shit back and forth.
No doubt.
So if we miss a something that's factual, you know what I mean? You know, bro, we don't come in here with I'm not Tom Brokaw. Don't think I'm coming in here with everything we talk about. This is not scripted. You know what I mean? We come in, we sit down, we talk shit until we get to our main topics.
So you got called out for something?
No, well, you know, not just that. No, we had a comment in the section that's saying was something about the black quarterbacks we was talking about. You know, they went back and said in 1972 some shit. You know what I mean? And we like, bro, calm down. You know, but I did get called out on some other shit, on the baseball. On the Yankees,
The Diamondbacks
and the Yankees, we got to talking about that. You know what I mean? And guy hit me in the inbox, Chicken Joe. And he said, FG, I got to respectfully get on your helmet about this. You know what I mean? And hey, I didn't know they had Randy Johnson over there with Kurt Schilling. They had probably the best 1-2 punch, which this guy let me know, of course.
Well,
you know?
I think I tried to tell you last week that
they
had an unhittable pitching squad, you know.
And he went on to run down to me, and he knew his shit. You know what I mean? So I got those facts wrong. My point in that, I was saying that I thought they had like one of the lowest payrolls is what I was trying to say. Compared to the Yankees, but that was even wrong. They had an $85 million payroll that year. Yankees was at 111. I mean, they were still, you know, up there in the top, you know.
Yeah, because I think they signed both Randy Johnson and Kurt Schilling. They're not homegrown Arizona Diamondbacks, so they signed them for some big money.
You know what? And they went down there and did their job, man, you know, just to be honest with you. So, hey, Chicken Joe, I appreciate you tapping in and getting the facts straight down there. You know, them Diamondbacks, they had a squad. He listed a slew of names that was down there, you know.
They only got one ring out of that squad, though.
Well, you know, that's what they trying to say about Philadelphia right now.
Yeah.
They trying to say that they won't make it back to the Super Bowl based on all the people that they may have to pay in order to keep these people. Jerry Jones even made a comment about it, which I felt he should have minded his business. You know what I mean? Hating and shit. You know what I mean? You know, because he'll do anything to win one more Super Bowl, you know. But basically what he said is they bet at the farm on to win the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? You know, with all the players they had, you know, and, you know, they do got pretty much arguably the two best corners in the league. They got some players that's contracts coming up. In this day and age, it's hard to keep some of these players based on everybody out trying to get a new contract for their family, for their, you know, generational wealth and things of that nature. So I don't know, or the pundits per se don't know if Philadelphia can keep all these players again and able to come back and try to do a reasonable run.
Well, that's what they said about the Kansas City Chiefs, because Mahomes, this is not the same squad. Mahomes won that Super Bowl back in February of 2020.
No doubt, but I'm going to tell you what Patrick Mahomes had in February 2020. He had Andy Reid and he had Travis Kelce. You know what I mean? And those are two people that can make a big difference in everything. You know, you got a damn good coach. You got arguably one of the best tight ends in the league. I'm not taking nothing from Philly. I'm going by what the pundits are saying. You know, I haven't looked at whose contract is up and things of that nature. I know that Jerry Jones spoke on it, but he shouldn't have, you know, till you make it to the game, then you speak on it, you know. But at the same time, man, if Philly can run back and do it again, you know, I'm all for, hey, do your thing, you know.
Well, I know for sure that Patrick Mahomes is going to get another ring before he's 30 years old. He's only 27 right now. He's going to get one more.
My son think he's going to get a couple more. He really believes. He say, Pops, I think he can run off a couple more, you know. He got the talent. He got the coach. It all depends on how long. I believe they can keep some of those core guys intact, you know what I mean, the front line, you know, and certain things of that nature. But, man, we'll see, man. It's hard to win a Super Bowl nowadays.
And then I think when you got a team like Kansas City, don't you attract the free agents too?
Oh, no doubt.
I want to go there. I want to go with Mahomes. I want to get a ring.
Well, let me tell you, it was some players on both teams that I didn't even know was over there. I didn't know Ndamukong Suh was over there at Philly. I didn't know that that running back that left, where did he leave? Cincinnati a year or two ago was over in Kansas City now. You know, that's the thing about free agency. Players move around so much, it's hard to, you know, really know if it's not your team, know who's on who team. But, hey, man, you know, I wish them all the best, man, you know, including my squad.
Oh, yeah, man. Shout out to Kansas City. I know they had a parade. And, man, I said it, man. Mahomes is a beast, and I think he's unstoppable. I mean, no disrespect to Jalen Hurts. You know, the dude scored 3 touchdowns, which is a record for a quarterback. But in my view, you run too much. You need to pass the ball more often. You need to find your tight ends. You need to get your wide receivers downfield. He caught a couple of them, but I feel like when you run as much as he runs, you're always going to come up short.
Well, I don't, man, because you get Lamar Jackson, man, in that situation, man, he's unstoppable. Jalen Hurts is coming along to be Lamar Jackson per se. I don't think he's the athlete Lamar is at this point, but I do think he's a great athlete, and they do use those attributes running. He did throw some hell of a passes that I didn't think he can throw, just to be honest with you. He did impress me with his throwing, to be honest with you. But at the end of the day, man, like you said, they came out that second half, they made that adjustment. And when they made that adjustment, he didn't make the same plays that he did in the first half, So, like I said, it comes down to everything, coaching and all that, So, did you see Mahomes' dad though?
Nah, I missed that one.
Oh, his dad stay talking shit. You know what I mean? And last week he said because he always smoking a cigar or something. So they asked him last week when they beat Joe Burrow and them Cincinnati Bengals. He said, "Man, I'm smoking Joe Burrows." So at the Super Bowl they asked him. They said, "Man, you still smoking Joe Burrows?" He said, "No, I'm smoking Philly blunts now."
Oh, that's crazy.
But he a real cat. You know what I mean? He ain't watered down at all. I could see he real. Yeah, you might have to censor him a little bit, but
yeah, I missed that one. I did see the Kelsey brothers' mom sitting in the stands with I guess he's the commissioner of football, right?
Oh wow,
what's his name? Goodall.
Goodell.
Goodell.
Goodell,
I think I saw her sitting with Goodell. Huh?
Is that who the commissioner is now?
Yeah, I think so. When she was sitting there,
sitting up there.
And remember, she had her jersey a couple weeks ago. She had the split jersey. Somebody hooked her up with the split coat. She had the Philly KC coat on.
Oh no, I didn't even check her out.
Yeah, they showed her for a quick second. But I'm not really a fan of the running quarterback. So you like the running quarterback when the quarterback is going to run for 150 yards and get you 3 touchdowns?
No, but that's the argument we had a couple weeks ago. We talk about the quarterback position from a black man. I don't want all the black quarterbacks to be running quarterbacks. You know what I mean? I want some of y'all stand in that pocket, man, and throw that ball. And if you need to run, get on. But at the end of the day, I can't hate on nobody's game. I love Lamar Jackson's game. That's his game.
Yeah, but he ain't gonna be in Super Bowl though.
Shit, his contract is up. He can damn near probably go to anywhere he want. You know what I mean? He may, Alex. I'm gonna hold you to that.
But let me ask you this: when you run that much, you're tiring your body more. Does that contribute to maybe that fumble? He dropped the ball and nobody even hit him. Does it make you lose a little concentration because you're trying to do so much on the field? You're doing everything that Mahomes is doing, plus you're running for 100 yards, over 100 yards. At some point, you're going to run out of gas.
Nah, it's just a new age what it's going to be, because if you look at a lot of these quarterbacks, even the white, they running. You got to have some legs, man, in the NFL.
Ain't nobody scoring 3 touchdowns in the Super Bowl, though. Well, that's a record that he did.
Let me tell you this. I'm going to give you the history on even the running quarterback in itself. It wasn't a black dude. It wasn't Randall Cunningham. It wasn't.
I know who you're going to say.
It was Fran Tarkenton, man.
You see,
Tarkenton was running around back there all day.
He was running,
he was throwing that ball,
but he wasn't running north south. He was running east west because he was trying to avoid getting sacked.
Right, but
he was a scrambler. We used to call those the scramblers.
Yeah.
So he wasn't like trying to score a bunch of touchdowns like Jalen Hurts was doing.
Well, let me just give you a fact on Jalen Hurts. From what I heard, the boy can squat 600 pounds. So when he gets down low, he just as strong as, or not, if not stronger than a running back. So I believe that's why when they get up in there and they do that bunch formation and they get to push it, they say it's 95% effective, man, because they just blow them off the line. It works damn near every time. So why wouldn't you go with something that works every time? I'm not going to knock no running ability. I'm just saying it's going to come a time like the second half where they kind of adjust it to the running, and you got to step back there, man, and the coach got to come with the plays. The offensive coordinator have to have the plays in his repertoire. It's not just Jalen Hurts. This a whole team. It's 11 dudes on the field, you know what I mean? Including the coaches. And the coaches also have to coach a damn good game. And I just believe in this game, in this Super Bowl, I'm going to say Andy Reid running the Super Bowl, to me, because both of them, you got players, you got coaches. I believe Andy Reid had the better plan.
Okay. Well, we'll have to wait for another year to see what happens, but I guarantee you Mahomes is going to win another one. Jalen might squeeze one in before his career is over, but the guy's an incredible passer. I don't think he should be running for 3 or 4 touchdowns in a game. But let's move on to this other fact check, man, because we got some reaction when we were talking about the organs and this whole black market of organs. And this someone hit me up named Danita Jones. She's been listening to the show. She said there's an actual episode on the Nat Geo channel, a show called Traffic, where she said the whole episode is about black market organs. So I haven't seen that episode, but I guess there's some people that kind of feel what you were saying. Was that last week? Yeah. Last week. So, hey, I'm gonna check out the episode, but I guarantee you this: if I watch this episode, I bet it ain't about trafficking organs in the United States.
Man, I bet it's gonna be a whole lot of more than you think. I'm gonna throw that out there. I think it's a whole lot more than you think. I know everybody wants us to root for the whole, the good old US of A, but at the end of the day, man, I'm telling you, they stealing organs around this thing, man. You know what I mean?
And then someone also told me that you can donate a liver, but I'm reading here that you have to have a liver, but it says here a small percentage of liver transplants are completed each year using a portion of a healthy liver from a living donor. So I guess that means it can grow and regenerate itself?
The liver, I believe, is the only organ that can grow and regenerate itself. But I sent you a video earlier, Alex, where the lady was arguing with the nurses because her son was an organ donor. And they were saying, we finna take him off life support. She like, hold on. Where's the hospital lawyer? Where's the head chief in charge? I'm not just finna let no nurse tell me y'all finna unplug him, because what the nurse actually said was we have to unplug him in a certain time for his organs to still be good. And, and he's an organ donor. That's a whole nother situation, which is damn near like let him die to protect the organs that I've heard people talk about. You know what I mean? Like they'll fucking let you die. But I believe you can't, if you brain dead, you can't let them organs go on so long and they still be, as fine as they was, a week before. You know what I mean?
You need them fresh.
Yeah. So that, and the nurse probably just didn't let the shit come out right. And she said that these organs need to be fresh. He's a donor. We need to get these organs on. Mama like, hold the fuck on. You know what I mean? Where's your lawyer? Let me call mine. She was doing everything she can, and it was a big old situation in the hospital about that. It was crazy.
Yeah, so back to the topic we talked about last week about those inmates in Massachusetts.
Right.
Now, since a liver regenerates itself, I guess the way it goes, they cut your liver in half, they put it into the person that needs it, and then your liver will go back to normal. That must be worth 5 years off a sentence.
Man, you gotta give me a lot. Man, I gotta have a life sentence, and you say I'm going home today for me to do that shit. I don't know if that's how it actually works. I believe it's a little more complicated than that, but that program right now need to be scrapped.
No, but if I'm looking at 20 years in prison and they come with this program and a liver regenerates and they're going to give me 5 or 10, let's say if I'm doing 20, I need at least 10 years off my sentence for you to get half my liver. I'd do it.
I would.
You wouldn't do it?
Hell no.
You're in year one of a 20-year sentence.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't give an organ that regenerates itself.
No, I would give up a liver. You know what I mean? I think about a kidney. But the thing about it is you saying, let me tell you what the situation I would have to be in. I would have to be done 10 and I'm finna go home. And I had 20 and I'm finna go home now. I wouldn't have 20 and give you, and you take 10 off and I still had to do 10 more. See, I wouldn't do that.
Oh, okay. So depending on what part of the sentence,
what part of my sentence I'm in, that would be how I determine if I do it or not.
Okay, because it's too early in the sentence for you to make that decision.
I need this right now. Yeah.
Okay, so then what if so then they come
because
to you.
I know prison, not just BOP, but state. I know prison health care. You know what I mean? You're not going to keep me. You take something from my body, you take a tooth, you're not going to keep it up to par. You don't want to check on, you don't want to, when I put my paperwork in to get my extracted tooth checked out, you don't want to see me then. So what the hell you going to do when I got a whole liver situation I need to be attended to?
Okay.
That's my point, yeah. If I could get out, if I could do it now, then when I can get out and go home, now I got hospitals on the outside that can tend to me for any aftercare type shit. Yeah,
Okay, so what you're saying is you don't trust the healthcare of the BOP
or the state. No, I don't.
either. Doesn't matter.
Neither.
Okay. That's crazy. Because they're using regular doctors like we have on the outside here at Kaiser or wherever you go, Blue Cross, right? Are they using the same doctors, or these are just doctors for the prison?
No, they may use doctors to do the procedure, but we talking aftercare. You know what I mean? Those doctors, once they do that procedure, you're not going to get the appropriate aftercare. You know what I mean? Look, we got a thing on the street with all my partners that I know that been to prison. You know, we having problems with healthcare on the street. I got homies calling me now talking about, man, they won't give me a CAT scan. Man, I'm having serious complications. I need this CAT scan. I need an MRI. I need a certain thing.
Yeah.
We know what to do. Go in the emergency room and fall out. That's what you have to do in prison. Go in there and just fall the fuck out. You know what I mean?
Crazy.
You know, nose dives on the floor and shit. You know what I mean? And it's just to get seen on something that you really hurting about. You know what I mean? So even on the street, even with Kaiser, even with Blue Cross, man, healthcare just is so packed and so many patients that they just not seeing people like they used to, Alex.
So you wouldn't recommend, and I'm assuming that if we can't trust the healthcare in the state of California or in the feds, it's probably like this in every state in the country.
Right, no doubt.
There's not like, if I'm going to go to prison, I need to go to this state because they got the best doctors. There's probably no such thing as good medical attention in the prison system anywhere.
Well, I know in the BOP that if you got any kind of cancerous situation, they got a spot in Springfield, Missouri. And they send you there. And they do have the best cancer care for the prison system. You know, I do know that as far as, you know, cancer patients, you know what I mean, or people who have cancer scares or certain situation, they're going to send you to Springfield, Missouri, you know. They also got, I believe, a psychiatric, the best psychiatric care over there in Springfield. Matter of fact, I think they got another spot in North Carolina, if I ain't mistaken. Everybody trying to get to North Carolina who got some serious illnesses. I forgot what prison it was, but it's certain spots where inmates is saying, man, if I can get to North Carolina, if I can get to, you know, I think Springfield is psychiatric, but I know North Carolina, you can get there. I have my best chances at those facilities, but if you check out North Carolina, man, they got the best cancer center in the BOP.
Now, this just made me think about this random topic, but Tupac's stepfather, Mutulu Shakur, went to the feds in 1980 for bank robbery. They gave him like, I don't know, 80 years or something.
Damn.
Well, because in the bank robbery that he did, which was for the Black Liberation organization he was representing, you know, they were robbing banks. 2 cops got killed.
Oh, okay.
You know, 2 cops got killed.
That changed the game.
Yeah, that changed the whole game. So Mutulu Shakur went into the feds in 1980, but he was diagnosed with terminal cancer, and the BOP said that we're going to let him out of prison on a, what is it called, compassionate release,
Right.
because in the state that he's in right now, he poses no threat because of his medical, the medical condition he's in, and that he only has 6 months to live. They said this in May of 2022. They let him out in December, which is more than 6 months later. And Mutulu is here in California right now. I haven't had a chance to really tap in with him. But have you heard of these compassionate releases that the BOP do? And correct me if I'm wrong, I'm guessing that they do this because they don't want the responsibility now of taking care of you, because
Right.
now
It's
you're
an
in
expense.
you're in grave, you're extremely ill and you need more attention.
Well, I can't say grave, but I do. I have a personal situation. How can I say it? I've experienced that personally. I just did an interview a few weeks back, maybe a month or so, with TP from San Diego, Emerald Hills. His brother was Big TP. We was in the feds together. We was in Victorville. He one of the ones that, when we used to play the San Diego homies in football, he made sure him and his little brother and them made sure that they came down there deep, brought players. I did a whole video about it. Mm-hmm. Now, Tim Patrick, which is his name, was in Victorville with me. When I left, I heard the homie had cancer. They sent him to, I believe, the spot I was telling you in North Carolina. He had a 20-year sentence. He might have gave him 12, 13, 15. And when he went to the cancer spot, they did exactly that. They let him go home. You know what I mean? He only had a few years left. They knew his cancer was terminal. They let him come home. I ran into him. We had a Lil Tim Patrick, Terry Patrick, who who I did the interview with not too long ago. Had a birthday party at the GS. I got to see the homie. You know what I mean? We took pictures and all that. And shortly after, he passed away. His son actually plays in the NFL. You know, Tim Patrick, I believe he's still with the Denver Broncos. No, he might be with the Giants now, but he's still in the NFL. But my whole point was the homie got that release. I got to see him. I got to hug him. You know what I mean? And it kind of hurt, man, when the homie passed away, but that happened to him.
Now, how long did he live after the release?
It had to be a year or two. Had to be a couple years. Because TP came home and, like I said, ran into him we had the birthday party at the GS, and you know, it could have been a couple years, man. I might have to ask a little TP, man, exactly how long it was. I'm sure he'd give me a date on the nose, but you know, it wasn't long enough, bro. He was a good, solid homie.
Now, the wide receiver Tim Patrick in the NFL, that's his son?
That's his son, yeah.
Okay, he's 2 years in the NFL. He got drafted in 2020. He's on the Denver Broncos.
He came out of Utah.
Okay, so
college, yeah.
He's a big brother, 6'4".
Man, a monster, balling.
Okay,
yeah.
So number 81 for the Denver Broncos. That's so his father's the one that got the compassionate release from prison.
Got the compassionate release from prison, and I got stories when we was on the yard, homie, doing gangster shit. He was a rider, you know, not to attach that with, you know,
yeah.
But at the same time, his daddy was a real A1. You know what I mean?
From the same hood in San Diego, Emerald Hills?
Emerald Hills, homie, yeah.
Okay.
Yep, no doubt.
Dang, because it seems like the feds will measure like how much life you got left in you before they let you go. They don't want you to have too much years left.
No doubt, but at the end of the day, you know how much it costs them to, you know, to care for you, you know, to medicate you or give you certain treatments and all that shit, man. That shit is a toll on them. So they came to the point that, you know, what we gonna do is send these people home. You know what I mean? And you know, I mean, I look at it both ways. I appreciate it. You know, who want to die in prison for one? People want to be around their family, and y'all not finna take care of them anyway. You know what I mean? So relieve the burden on y'all. Send them home to see their family for the next year or so or whatever. Some don't last that long. Some do last a lot longer. You know, and I think it's cool to do that.
Well, I hope that Mutulu Shakur has got more life left than the 6 months that the BOP. Well, he has passed the 6 months.
He passed the 6 months.
He's already passed the 6 months that the BOP claims, and he was part of the Black Liberation Army, the BLA, and he's a true revolutionary. You know, I mean, how many people are willing to put it all on the line like that? You know, bank robberies, shootouts with the police. You know, knocking off officers. Not that I condone that or that I promote it, but when people are revolutionaries, everything is game, you know? Mm-hmm. And that's what Mutulu represented, a true revolutionary fighting for the cause. And this is the guy that gave Tupac all his game.
No doubt.
He raised Tupac, you know?
Yeah, no doubt.
So, you know, I really hope that people, you know, maybe try to tap in with him. If there's any film producers out there, I think this man's story needs to be told. The BOP released him in December, just a couple months ago from doing let's see, he went in 81, so he already had how many years in?
Man, he is shit.
81 to now is 40 years, right?
Give him a number, man.
So he already was 40 years into his sentence, and they're saying he don't have much time left, but yeah, that made me kind of go off course on that. And also, I want to shout out, man, Bunchy Carter's little brother. Everyone knows about Bunchy Carter. He got killed in 1969. He was the leader of the Los Angeles chapter of the Black Panther Party. Well, he had a little brother named Kenny Carter that went to prison in 1972 for killing a gay preacher, homosexual preacher. Mm. And he wasn't the only one involved. It was about 3 or 4 or 5 people involved, but they gave little Kenny Carter all the time. But he just got out. I believe he got out in December. So shout out to Kenny Carter, a.k.a. Fatih. And, you know, a lot of people is getting out of prison that had these long sentences, it seems to me. Am I correct in this? Like, we hearing that, like, all these lifers are coming home now.
No, I can name about 5 of them that I know personally.
Yeah.
Came home, you know. bro, they did 30s and 35 years, man. A crime is a crime, and I know some crimes are unforgivable, and but at the same time, man, when do you you believe a guy to learn his lesson? A guy committed murder at 18, he's not the same guy at 55. You know what I mean? And that's just the reality of it, man. And I know when it's on the other side of the fence, when somebody did something to one of your loved ones, and they go and do 30 years and come back home, if they did it when they 20 and they come back home at 50, you don't feel right about that, because 50 is an age that can still live and go on about life. But a 50-year-old man is definitely not the same person at 20 years old. And I believe in redemption, bro.
Definitely. LB, he got out of prison about a year or two ago from the west side of Compton. And I know that the family of the victim that he got convicted of killing in 1976 used to go to the parole boards and say, we don't want him out.
Right.
And I think that does play a role when the family of the victim comes to your parole hearing and says, no, we don't want him to come home yet.
Hell yeah, especially is that when it's after 20-some years and the family is still coming, it's like they, but it should be taken into consideration, though. Don't get me wrong. You know what I mean? That means we still mourning this dude. We still miss this dude. We still love this dude. This shouldn't be forgiven. All I'm saying, Alex, is some of the things we do at 18, 17, 21 years old, think about back when you were 20. I wouldn't dare do some of that shit right now. Not at all. Totally different person. So I believe that's why this consideration should be took.
Well, I mean, when you send a guy like LB to prison in 1976, and we're already in the 2000s, at what point is enough time,
I mean, some people don't believe ever is a lifetime, especially when the murder is involved, because their loved one is never coming back. So I'm not trying to downplay, the murder. I'm just basically pointing out that people are different, from 20 to 60, 20 to 50. People are different. That's the only thing I'm saying. I'm not trying to, make no big situation like, people shouldn't, lifers shouldn't do life. I'm just saying that at what point and then you have parole boards, you have psychiatric people who sit down with these people, talk to them, and see that it's been a change. This man should be back out in society. So
no doubt. All right, let's tap in with a couple topics here, man. Let's start off with this. And there's this brother in Colorado. He got convicted. He was about to go on trial. Let's say that. He was about to go on trial for 3 murders. His name was Master Titus Martin. I don't think I've ever met a brother named Master. But he was on some gangster shit in Colorado. They got him for 3 separate homicides that happened at 2 different times. And he's about to go to trial. But on the day of trial, on the day of day 1 of trial, he takes a plea deal for 60 years in prison. Dude is like, I think he's late 20s or early 30s. Mm-hmm. What would compel a dude to just say, yeah, sure, give me that 60 years because I'll take that deal, because normally 60 years is never a deal.
Nah, no doubt. You know what I mean? You got to take it to the box with me before you give me, you're going to have to give me 60. I'm not taking it, But on the flip side, though, he got 20 years for each body.
Yeah.
In Colorado, what I read online, they do predominantly 50% of their time, unless it's certain situations. He's eligible for parole in 30 years. Depending on how he walk his walk, Alex, you never know. He might go do the same 30 we just got finished talking about LB and some of the other dudes just did and came home. You know what I mean? And China Dog and them from Luda's Park just came home from walking all these years down, and they still have a little life left. So he probably said, you know what, let me take this route, because I might come home at 60, 65. Hey, I might live to 100. I might live to 95. I could come back home and still have 30 years. You never know.
Well, if he just does his prison time without, let's just say, he messes up and he's always getting in trouble in there, his final release date is 2080.
That's a life sentence.
Yeah, that's 2080. And if you're already, he's 22 years old, so 60. He's gonna be in his 80s when he gets out in 2080. But he's eligible for parole in 2053, 2052, 2053. So that sounds a whole lot better, doesn't it?
No, definitely a whole lot better. You know what I mean? I believe they didn't have a airtight case. You know, why would you offer a man 60 years and when you can take him to the box and get him a life without sin? That's 3 bodies, damn near the death penalty. You know what I mean? So if something was in there, Alex, that I felt that maybe wasn't airtight, you know, I believe if he would have waited them out another week, they might have went down to 50. I don't know, but at the same time, man, sometimes, you know, you got to do what you got to do in order to avoid that life without or that death penalty.
Yeah, because he didn't get a life sentence technically.
He didn't get an L on
He didn't get an L.
He didn't get an L.
But, I mean, it's damn near a life sentence. It says here, according to the CBS News affiliate in Colorado, it says on the day of his trial, Master was supposed to begin, Master Titus Martin pleaded guilty to killing 3 people along East Colfax within 2 days. Martin immediately received a sentence of 60 years in prison. With the plea, he admitted to fatally shooting Purcell Walls on July 5th of 2020, Crystal Lockhart, and Moses Ham 2 days later. All were murdered near the intersection of East Colfax Ave and North Beelier Street. So this dude was kind of like on his gangster shit for whatever reason, but I gotta say, he threw it all away, man.
Yeah, but I mean, what kind of gangster shit you on if you ain't killing gangsters? Because I don't believe Crystal was a member. I don't believe the other guy was a member. You know, what was his motive to just kill these people? And even if that was his hood, what was your motive? You know what I mean? And what was you standing on? You know, was these people coming harming people in your neighborhood? Was they coming harassing the homies? Was they coming? What did you kill these people for? You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, bro, you took a life sentence, or you got damn near life sentence for who and what? Did these people harm you? Did these people harm somebody you know? Was these people a threat to you or anybody in your hood? I mean, I don't get that part, Alex.
Well, what usually gets me going is that they didn't catch him right away. So he was caught 2 months later, and usually that means somebody's telling.
No doubt. Well, you know, Don, they got technology out there. Some of these dudes be slipping.
If the technology's not going, they're not going. If they had cameras and footage of this guy and where he went, they wouldn't have waited 2 years to arrest him, though, right?
You said 2 years or 2 months?
I'm sorry, 2 months. 2 months.
That's not a long time.
Okay. Well, usually, see, from a law enforcement perspective, you got a guy that allegedly killed 3 people. Mm-hmm. You can't wait for him to go kill a 4th, a 5th, and a 6th. Police think, oh, this guy's gonna go kill some more people.
No doubt, but I don't know if they knew that he killed all 3 people at that moment when they got him, or if they were just on him for 1 murder and then stumbled across 2 more. I mean, I don't know all the dynamics, but at the same time, he could have slipped up somewhere. But at the same time, my whole thing was, what was his motive as far as, you know, on some gangster shit? What was the gangster shit? You know what I mean? Because killing innocent people ain't gangster, you know. So what was his gangster? He made a lot more than we knew, you know what I mean, about these people or why he chose these people. But at the same time, man, I believe 60. I believe he did good as far as he didn't get that L behind it. He didn't get that life without behind it. He got action one day.
Well, yeah, he was definitely a member of a gang out there in Colorado. Most of the Denver gangs and the gangs in Aurora, where this crime took place, Aurora is right next to Denver. They're all LA-based gangs.
No doubt.
They got the Harlem 30s Crips. They got the Crenshaw Mafia Bloods and a few other ones out there.
Mob out there deep.
Is that right?
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah. So I actually, some people that from LA call Denver like Little LA. I
mean, I've been there. You know what I mean? And I know the homies that's there, you know, from the homies that I know. Been out there for years, you know, and it's definitely like DJ Quick said, man, just like Compton. It's ghetto out there, man.
So he was charged, this brother named Master Martin, he was charged with an attempted murder and 3 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of first-degree assault. So he took the deal, and I think you're right. 60 years is definitely... it sounds it sounds like a lot of time.
No, it is.
But for triple murder?
Right. That's my point.
Yeah.
See, that's my point. Usually it's going to come with a death penalty on a triple, or it's going to come with a life without parole. You know, you're in there forever. Bro did, he did all right.
And the last time I checked, it's I'm not sure if Colorado has the death penalty. No, in 2020, Colorado abolished the death penalty. So this dude lucked out. He because this would have been a death penalty case for sure.
No doubt, but shit, even a life without parole though, that's a death sentence. It's not a penalty, it's the sentence. Life without parole, you never coming home ever. You don't have no action at coming home. He got action at 52, 2053. He can go between these people and say, you guys, I'm a changed man. I done took all these classes. I done did all this. I done, and had the credentials to show it, and really, but the thing about it is, and really mean it though. At that age, at 50, really mean it. You know what I mean? Not like just, oh no, I'm trying to fake y'all out. I mean, really mean it though. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's crazy, man.
Now, sometimes when they give these deals, when the DA's office gives a deal to a defendant, they sometimes consult with the victim's family to let them know, hey, how do you guys feel? We're going to just give him a deal. We're going to just not go to trial. Their argument, the prosecution's argument is, we don't want to put the family through all of the tragedy of reliving the murders, of reliving what happened to your sons and your daughter. We don't want to put you guys through looking at autopsy photos on the screen. It's just better all around for everyone. But the family sometimes will say 60 years ain't enough. And so then DAs have to deal with damn, the victims' families, they're not cool with it. But we feel 60 years is a good deal. I don't know how Colorado's doing it, but here in LA, I would see prosecutors actually consult with victims' families on these deals.
Well, the victim's family in this deal, this very situation, they made a statement. They said that they didn't feel that was enough time, but at the same time, they believe that he go and knock out the whole 60, basically. You know what I mean? But they did make a statement in that situation. But when you speak on that, we don't want to, have to put photos or drag the family. No, sometimes y'all ain't got really enough evidence. And these dudes had Johnny Cochran. He might have beat 2 of them. You know what I mean? They got 20 on the 1. That's why y'all gave him that 60. Y'all didn't do it in y'all best interest. I mean, in his best interest. Y'all did it in y'all best interest. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's certainly a possibility, man, that they didn't really have an airtight case on these 3 homicides.
And if you get the right attorneys, which sometimes we can't afford, Alex, you should. It'd be a whole different situation. Now you got 3 manslaughters. Now they broke it down to 3. You feel me? So I believe they only gave him the 60 because it was shaky.
Yeah, and the family, they could have pressed a hard line against the DA's office for giving them this 60-year deal, but I guess they just went along with it.
Well, sometimes the DAs go to really talk to them. Listen, man, just let us be honest with you. At best, we got this. Because when you talk about murder, Alex, that's one of the easiest cases to beat. But when you get caught on it, it's a life sentence. You know what I mean? But murders are easier to beat than robberies because you have to be beyond a reasonable doubt. We can't just think, or we can't just, say somebody came and told me that the homie said he shot him. No, you didn't see it yourself. You feel what I'm saying? So when you on a murder, it has to be beyond a reasonable doubt. And a lot of times when you get in these trials, it's not beyond a reasonable doubt. That's what they asking. They not asking what you think personally. We all believe he did it. We all see he slipped and made, but beyond a reasonable doubt in any situation, is it a situation where he couldn't have did it? Is it a situation where it couldn't have been him? You know what I mean? That's how when they start shooting at him like that, where tell me a situation where it couldn't have been him. Well, it couldn't have been him if this, that. So that's not a reasonable doubt. I mean, it's a doubt in there that it could have not been him. So we can't smash him like that. That's why, like I say, man, I come up through the ranks, man, back in the county jail, man. When you ever heard of Sinister and Evil from Swan?
Yes, definitely. I just had a conversation about Sinister, rest in peace, the other day.
I ran into Big Evil. Mm-hmm. Big Evil on death row, I believe. You know what I mean?
Big Evil's actually in the county because he's fighting his death row conviction.
Oh, okay.
He's trying to get a retrial.
Okay.
That's Cleamon Johnson.
Exactly, no doubt. You know what I mean? And and the whole thing about it was, when you get to these murders, or accused of these murders, if you know how to fight them, or you have the attorney that can, prove you innocent, the state can't just put some evidence on you and then send you to trial and the jury convict you. The attorney's gonna come prove you innocent when you're innocent. You know what I mean?
Did Sinister beat some cases?
Yeah. You know what I mean? Hell yeah.
Now I know Big Evil, Cleamon Johnson, actually he defended himself. He was his own lawyer in a murder case. and he either got acquitted or was a hung jury. So like I tell people that this dude's probably the best legal for a gangster, probably the best legal mind for a gangster.
Well, he knew his shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like I say, Sinister, Sinister rest in peace now. You know what I mean? He beat a few of them. You know what I mean? The whole thing about it is, he was accused of them. He knew what to do to prove himself innocent as far as, what I need to say or what I need to show. And them dudes proved themselves innocent. But at the end of the day, man, them dudes fought a few of them apiece. And these guys right here, if they per se, like you say, had a Johnny Cochran or had a certain attorney working with them, they might have could have got less than the 60 coming from me by them even getting that deal,
But those guys from Family Swan, man, they dabbled with devil worshiping, and they was dabbling with the dark side for a minute.
Well, the thing about it, is I don't knock a man for what he do as far as his religion, his beliefs, his none of that, but my whole thing was gangster.
Yeah.
And I was in the county jail with both of them. They was gangsters. You know what I mean? And the scene used to be rapping in the county in the module. Helping us get through that time. You know what I mean? And things of that nature. So at the end of the day, I know one thing about it. If I were, when you go to Compton Court or you go to CCB, man, you're gonna run into them Crips. You know what I mean? And I tell you one thing about it. I'd rather have Evil and Sinister. And that on my going to court on the same day I'm going on, homie. At least I know I'm gonna have some dudes that's gonna ride for the cause and what the cause was to be. I know they was gonna stand on that. So whatever their personal shit was, that was their business. But on the B thing, Alex,
yeah,
they was with that shit.
No, they definitely was with it. But if it was me, if I was in your spot, I would find me some Christian gangsters. No, seriously, because I think when you dabbling on the dark side, it sometimes don't work out. On the other, yeah, I mean, there's a whole lot of there's a whole lot of gangsters that pray to Jesus. I can't dabble on that dark side, but I always say that pound for pound per capita, the Family Swans was probably the hardest set in LA history for as small as they were and for as much work that they put in with Crips surrounding them on almost all sides. So yeah, they put it down.
Right. What we got next?
Well, since we talked about
we done drifted off it.
Since we talked about the dark side, I didn't really get to ask you about how was Valentines, because this is Valentine's week here. And I didn't get to tap in with you on the Valentines.
Oh shit, Valentines wasn't great for me, man. For one, I had to work.
Mm-hmm.
Man. I work a 12-hour shift. I'm out the house 14 hours a day. You know what I mean? And wifey didn't feel she got enough appreciation. You know what I mean? I didn't bring in no balloons and no fake ass teddy bears, so it was a little issue. But at the same time, man, like I say, man, you want to do the work. Fixing sinks and fixing showers and motherfucking making sure the yard is kept and doing all the extra shit that, the bills and doing all the extra shit. You know what I mean? I don't believe a motherfucking teddy bear should, fake ass teddy bear. That's some candy you ain't gonna eat and shit like that should prove my motherfucking love. But at the same time, man, it was issue. Plus, all these holidays, I don't do Christmas. We don't do Thanksgiving. We gonna get the grandkids, some stuff and some, But on holiday, man, I don't believe in a lot of these. Matter of fact, my Valentine's Day got me feeling like I run into Cupid. I'm gonna probably try to slap the shit out of you, but selfish, man. Get up out of here, man.
Well, I agree with all of that. I don't participate in Valentine's for a couple reasons. One, it's the dark side. It's a pagan holiday. So if you want to dabble with the dark side, then you celebrate these pagan holidays. I try to stay away from the dark side as much as possible. It's all around us. But also, I feel like it's simping, when you bringing home balloons and a box of candy, and I've, I'm sure we've all been guilty of simping at one point in time, but I'm against simping for the most part. I'm sure we've all had our stages where we were trying to get a girl and we did whatever we needed to do. But once I came into my grown man stage, my grown man period, it's no simping ever again. And Valentine's to me represents that kind of, if you want to go out there and spend some money on your girlfriend, your significant other, or your wife on Valentine's Day, shout out to all the simps.
Well, the whole thing about it is more or less like I believe that, you one day to prove your love or one day to, show that I got love for you, or one day, You know,
but you do that with the stuff you just said you do. The yard, the building, the fixing.
No motherfucking doubt, but it ain't appreciated if you don't bring home that fake ass candy or that, the little bullshit corner teddy bear or some shit like that. The teddy bear you can go find for, at Walmart for $2, but it's gonna be on the corner for $20. You know what I mean? And it ain't the money per se. It's just the whole thing about it. Like I'm kind of like you, man. Listen, you ain't gonna pin me down on, I ain't got no eggs on Easter. You ain't gonna pin me down. I ain't got no motherfucking candy on Valentines. I ain't got no motherfucking turkey on Thanksgiving. You ain't gonna pin me down like that. So the thing about it is, the women who have real men, recognize that what it is. Some of these holidays, just bullshit holidays. Wait for the economy to make you spend money on some shit that gonna throw in the trash or not even gonna use or don't mean nothing really so but I gotta disagree with you. I don't knock the people who do. You got a lot of young loves out there who that's what they do. They gonna buy their little boo some flowers, but when when you in the game, homie, you proven. Same thing like being in the hood. When you proven, bro, the hood ain't gonna ask me to do no shit that what I mean, to prove my love after I'd have been dedicated to that motherfucker for, what I mean?
Exactly.
The job ain't gonna ask me to do nothing extra because I done proved to the job that this is what I do. I come to work, I get my shit done every day. They not gonna ask me for no extra shit on no extra day. If you get what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, Alex, like I say, man, it is what it is.
Hey, if you're married to your woman, okay, I won't knock it like you said, but hey, boyfriends and girlfriends and significant others, please, don't do nothing. It's just another day. It's just another day. Also, I mean, this podcast ain't really about breaking down like the roots of these holidays. But go do your research and look at how pagan and how satanic Valentine's Day really is.
Really was, yeah.
It still is. Just because it's still the same day. You representing Valentine's Day, and it's a pagan holiday. It's got roots to the dark side, and for anyone that's participating in it, hey, you participating on the dark side, but it's all good. All right, so we got a couple more topics here. On this next topic, man, there was an arrest in New York City, where it's crazy, man, because I was born in New York City, and I used to think New York is its own entity. It's its own city. Nothing can penetrate New York. It's the home of hip hop, but they got Crips and Bloods in New York City. I never thought in a million years, like Chicago don't have Crips and Bloods. Chicago said no, we ain't playing
doing that. Yeah.
But New York City was supposed to stay strong on their culture like Chicago did.
What was their culture though? They didn't have gang culture like that.
Yeah, the gang culture.
They come from they was hip hop and they was battling and hip hopping and doing certain things before gangs came around.
But they did have gangs prior to hip hop.
They did. Because let me back up. Gangs originated on the East Coast,
New York City. To keep it real,
let me keep it 100.
5 points is where it all started.
Let me go back because even you got a book up there, bro. And when I looked at the publishing on that book, I believe it was 1909 or 1919 or some shit like that.
Yeah, 100 years ago.
Yeah, so let me back up. Gangs originated over there, but at the same time, it wasn't Crips and Bloods. No. You know what I mean?
The Crips and Bloods kind of hit in 1993 when they came out with the 9 Trey Bloods. That's why they came out with 9 Trey, because it was 93, I believe. But I never thought it would penetrate. The gangs of New York City kind of died off in the 70s and 80s when hip-hop got big. But you had gangs like the Savage Skulls, the Nomads. My dad used to be in a gang in the 1950s called the Lucky Knights of Wales. My uncle started a gang in the Bronx called the Puerto Rican Tigers. So, but the gangs would die out. They didn't have any durability to last years and years. But just recently, there's a whole arrest in New York City with these gangs, which are pretty much mimicking LA gangs.
Right.
Let me play this clip for this recent indictment that just happened in New York City. Let me see here.
Gang takedown in Queens.
23 reputed gang members have been arrested after a 2-year investigation into gang violence around 2 public housing developments.
And Fox 5's Linda Schmidt joins us live from the Woodside houses with details. Linda, what do we know about these suspects?
First of all, hi there to both of you this evening. This investigation started 2 years ago after a mother was just innocently walking to the grocery store to buy milk for her children, and she was hit in the head by a stray bullet, and she was killed. And sadly, that woman is just one of many New Yorkers who have been caught in the crossfire of gang violence. Mayor Adams, the police commissioner, and the Queens district attorney announcing the takedown of 23 alleged rival gang members who have had wild shootouts in the middle of the day with no regard for children or anyone else.
No one on either side thought twice about shooting at a rival on a busy street. It did not matter that it was the middle of the day or that small children were present. They fired their guns. Bystanders be damned.
Authorities say the rival gang members are subsets of the Crips gang and have been terrorizing Woodside houses and Astoria houses in Queens.
23 total subjects. Of those 23 subjects, 18 have been arrested for a shooting-related incident or are being charged with a shooting-related incident on at least one occasion. And as the mayor noted earlier, 8 of the 23 have allegedly fired a gun more than once. Simply put, these subjects are the alphas of the gang's most threatening members, that small group of individuals that have no problem shamelessly firing guns.
The mayor also putting blame on social media for escalating the gang violence.
Those who are using social media to taunt each other and using a version of drill music, and it's not saying all drill music, and I want to be clear on that, but using a version of drill music to taunt and turn into violence.
Residents who live in both Woodside and Astoria houses asking for even more police presence.
Unfortunately, there are those who believe that they are beyond the law.
Okay, so we got the point there, man. There's a couple things here I want to tap in with you. First, is it gangster to just be randomly shooting your gun and you hitting innocent bystanders, you're hitting people, and you're not really hitting your target?
Well, no, but at the same time, what she did say, I did catch what they saying when they see their rivals, though, they busting in broad daylight. You know what I mean? Don't care who around or what's going on. To a certain degree, that's gangster shit. That's gangbanging. That's what it is. When gangster shit get cracking, innocent bystanders has been in every situation of gangbanging. Nobody has just jumped out there with a gun, homie, and hit all 6 shots in one person and didn't miss one time. You know what I mean? You're going to hit a building. You're going to hit a house. You're going to hit a car. It may not be no injuries, but those things do happen. You know what I mean? So it ain't gangster to hit innocent bystanders where you know innocent bystanders are. But at the same time, Alex, you know, when the phone jump off, the last thing on your mind is who's around. The first things around is either saving your life, shooting back, or getting your target, because that's what we came to do.
Now, let me ask you this. I know the Mexicans in 92, 93, they told all the Southsiders no more drive-bys because y'all be hitting, you be hitting abuela, you be hitting tia. Y'all need to hit your target. So they had a strict rule, no drive-bys. You get out, you walk up, and then you do your thing. And for the most part, that has lessened the amount of innocent bystanders when it comes to the Mexican gangs. Not that I'm promoting violence and promoting crime, but I kind of thought that's a cool rule to have.
Well, I mean, the only 2 shootings I ever had wasn't drive-bys. 2 shootings that I was arrested for, they wasn't drive-bys, So you're right. It didn't just develop in the Mexican neighborhood. It developed everywhere. Everybody who was out putting in work or doing their thing, I was accused of a couple shootings, and in the paperwork and the police report, it said that the suspect walked up, 2 separate situations. I was able to get out of that based on, it was allegedly, they tried to accuse it was me, but the drive-by stopped a long time ago, just for that simple fact, and I believe a lot of the drive-bys it started to be put out there like you scary if you're doing drive-bys because you're just driving up shooting anybody or shooting in a crowd. Go get your man.
It's almost impossible to be accurate while you're in a moving car and then you're shooting at people that are probably moving too.
Yeah, but you got to go and think about where gangster shit come from way before Crips and Bloods.
Oh yeah,
you talking about Al Capone was pulling
the Tommy gun,
pulling up with a Tommy gun in front of a building, laying out everybody.
Yeah.
So we or the gangsters before me or the people who like I say who originated gangster shit, had to emulate some of the mafia dudes and the shit they saw on TV, the James Cagney movies and shit like this, and that's what they were doing then. So until gangsters start seeing different shit, you know what I mean? And like I say, not promoting shit, but at the same time, just keeping it 100, get out and go get your man. Stop shooting up the town.
Actually, Eazy-E had a line in a 1988 song. He said, "F a drive-by. I walk up and do a walk-by."
I mean, you know what? He said that on wax, but I mean, only few motherfuckers actually did it. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And, you know, when we speaking of Valentines, you had the Valentine's Day Massacre, you know, the homies.
That was a drive-by, right?
Nah,
No?
them dudes walked up.
They walked up
Yeah,
on
they
them, okay.
walked up. You know, but my whole point was more or less like, you know, the drive-by was more hitting more innocent people. Now, in this situation, these are from what I'm believing, some of them are walk-bys. It's just when you talk about projects, it's people out and going shopping, going to wash their clothes, going to take their kids to the store to get an ice cream.
Yeah.
And innocent people are getting shot. You know what I mean? But when you go get your man, you know what I mean? Unfortunately, Alex, those considerations aren't took.
Now, let me ask you this. Eric Adams of New York City, the black mayor that just got elected last week, he made a point about social media. Do you think that Instagram and social media does have an impact on gang conflict?
I believe social media, and especially Instagram and things of that nature, is one of the biggest impacts that we have today on gang violence. Back in the day, in order for me to diss some Crips, guess what I had to do? Go where they was at and diss them. You know what I mean? Wasn't nothing to tell them, you know, anything besides seeing them. And this is the problem dudes is getting on, you know, and I'm going to be honest with you, I got homies that do that shit too. And I call them and I tell them, you know what I mean, that sucker shit, you know, bro, because, you know, the young baby homies that's coming up, you know what I mean? I don't know them personally, but I'll send a message down to that sucker shit, man. Get off the gram. And the police on this motherfucker.
Yeah.
You know, knock it off. But I believe if it was a social media like it was today, a whole lot of these beefs would, because you couldn't say diss a dude from across the town. You know what I mean? You know, so it's a big problem, Alex. I mean, a big problem.
Now, remember when we talked about YG's How to Rob a Rapper video? There was a part of it where dude from Bounty Hunter, they had their phones and they were showing like they robbed the dude. They were holding the jewelry and then they had their phones. I guess they were pretending like they was on social media showing, yeah, we just robbed such and such. And even though that was a video, that was theatric, but they're showing the way that generation thinks now.
Well, no, I'm going to tell you what dudes are doing and what's this. I can't believe this. It seemed like you don't have any big homies. You don't have any guys. You don't have a dad. You don't have an uncle. You don't have nobody that, you know. Let me tell you what these dudes is doing. How can you go out and commit a crime and then go on Instagram and say, I just committed a crime? You know what I mean? They don't, you ain't specific. In your mind, you don't think, I ain't said what I did. Bro, you were just broke yesterday. Now you talking about you the richest dude in town. You know what I mean? I just came up on this, or say something like this. I just came up on this this necklace, but across town, the homie just got robbed for a necklace. Motherfuckers put that shit together, homie. I mean, it's just so it's care. The police is listening. They investigating. They took the report on who got their necklace stole or who got their jewelry store robbed, and you on Instagram the next day or whatever platform you on talking about. You know, I just came up on this. These dudes are so reckless that, look, some of these dudes gonna say somebody snitched on them, but when they get to court, they gonna realize they snitched on themselves.
No doubt. I'm glad you said snitch on yourself because early on you didn't really think snitching on yourself was a real thing. Remember that?
right.
But it just made me think about Miko Worldwide. He got robbed in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and those dudes went to social media. We just robbed Miko.
We just robbed Miko.
We got his strap. We got his plaque, we got his chain, and of course, all of them are now, facing charges. But that takes us. I was about to go to our last topic, but before we go to our last topic, the last thing I wanted to tap in with you on this last story from New York. What's your whole opinion on? And I get this question all the time of gangs from LA being emulated in other cities. The question I always get is, are they real or are they fake? And it's a question that I can never really answer clearly of real and fake because there's real cats in every city in America.
No doubt.
But how they decided to say, like, for example, in this New York situation, one of the gangs are called the A-Trade Crips. You know, that's a real gang here in L.A. But then there's some other gangs that are more, they take on more indigenous names to New York City. Astoria is the part of Queens that they're in. It says here one of the gangs is called the Hip Hop Boys. They're a rap group related to the Crips. And then another group is the True Crash Getters. But what's your whole thing of if someone says, oh, yeah, I'm from Cross Atlantic in Baltimore, is that real or is it fake?
It's funny you said that, man. We got across Atlantic in Baltimore. You know what I mean? But it's not a real hood. We don't know none of them.
Okay.
It's some dudes who took the name. And it's funny you said it. You must have been doing some research.
Nah,
you fucking with me right now.
I literally just randomly said Baltimore.
We got some dudes in Baltimore, man, saying they across Atlantic. You know, when we go back and do the research and say, well, who know these dudes? Who vouched for these dudes? Who set that up? You know what I mean? It's something one dude took on and said, man, that's what he was gonna be. He started that shit, and I guess it grew in his neighborhood, and he pushed that. The thing about it is this: is he connected to us? No. You know, is he connected to the set? No. Is he connected to any homies that we know personally? Through social media and him tapping in with homies, because he done went and found the homies on social media and tries to tap in with them, you know, we know it exists. But the thing about it is gangs are serious everywhere. Killers is everywhere, Alex. The one thing I'm going to say what separated the 80s from now is it was only a few killers in every hood. Now these guys from every city, country, every neighborhood, they not afraid to kill. That's the problem. That's the sad part. So a dude can make a gang and name it anything. If they putting in work and they causing problems and they using guns, bro, it's a gang, and it's how can I put it? It's unfortunate. It's very unfortunate that somebody can go just start a gang anywhere, call it anything, recruit some people, and they really going out and doing gangster shit. Because what we finding out in California is when you go to other places, dude, they doing more shit than us. You know what I mean? We not even doing that shit no more. You know what I mean? We trying to patch up things with the, you know, the Crips, the Damus, the Parus, you know, and get together and do picnics and hang out. In they place, they really beefing. You know what I mean? So it's just unfortunate in that they took the name and they idolized that, they emulated that, and but gangs are real in every state, every country. It's real, bro.
Yeah, gangs are definitely real.
Yeah.
Some people will say, though, the Cross Atlantics in Baltimore, because they didn't really tap in with anybody, they're not real. They're under a fake umbrella, but nonetheless, they're doing real stuff wherever they're doing it.
Well, you got to understand the people that's really from Cross Atlantic is fine with not knowing these cats. We don't want to be. We don't want a Matt Ronald situation.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, just to be honest with you, you know, and that's what I'm trying to teach the homie. Why y'all don't tap in with them, dude? You know what I mean? You know, don't do that,
because they'll make you the leader of the Baltimore.
You goddamn right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you don't learn nothing, learn from Matt Ronald, man. That, you know, just being an associate or just commenting when some people chatting with some people, you know, taking some text or giving somebody some advice, land you in a situation, bro, that you never fucking been in. You ain't never seen Baltimore, and you fucking in Baltimore jail. You know, leave that shit alone. You know.
Yeah, you'll find yourself in a prison in Maryland just because they said you're linked, even though you're not linked.
No doubt, but this is not just our situation. This is everybody's situation. Because I'm sure they got, like you said, they went by the A tray in New York. They probably got 100 A trays everywhere. You get what I'm saying?
There's A trays everywhere.
No doubt. No doubt.
Most of them aren't tapped in with LA. Some are, some aren't.
Right, but they independent gangs that go by the name, but it makes it seem like it even gives the real A trays like a bigger, when it comes to the federal shit, you know, it puts a mark on the real ones as well. You know what I mean? You know, and it hinders, you know, even what the real ones got going, they trying to do something positive, that shit hinders you, bro. You know what I mean?
Actually speak on an A-Tray situation, because he's deceased now, but one of their leaders, Rayford Miles, aka Sidewinder, there was an A-Tray indictment on some Oxycontin pills up in either Washington or Oregon, and I remember he hit me up. He said, "Hey, can you look into that indictment? I want to make sure I'm not a part of that anymore," because everyone looks at Rayford Miles as like the leader of the A-Tray gangsters when he was alive, and he just figured, man, I hope they don't throw my name in this. I took a look at the indictment. I said, no, your name ain't in it. But this was maybe like 8 years ago. He was thinking about this, like, you know, because social media was kind of in the beginning stages around 2007, 8, 9, but yeah, a lot of people in LA, you gotta think about these sets in other cities, because it don't take a lot to tie you into or something.
Well, that's what I'm trying to get, you know, the picture through now, because we seen the Mad Ronald situations, we seen the other people's situations, and we seen situations where you don't even really have to be there. You didn't really have to even do nothing. You
don't got to be present at all.
You don't even got to be present at all. And just because you know somebody that know each other, you trying to keep tapped in with the little homies, or the little homie trying to tap in with you for advice, it could go bad. You know what I mean? Even in my situation, you know what I mean? It could still go bad, you know, because I try to give these young dudes, try to lead them in a different route, you know what I mean? Try to help them out with jobs, try to, you know, give them inspiration and encourage to, you know, leave the hood shit alone and go on and be a father, be a, you know, a provider, you know, for your family and shit like that. But sometimes that shit can get mixed construed, Alex.
So I guess you agree with Eric Adams, the mayor of New York City, putting a lot of blame to social media and the gang stuff that's going on in New York City.
No doubt. And that's not just in New York City, but yeah, he absolutely right. Yeah.
All right, man, let's tap in with our last topic here, man. It's the rapper XXXtentacion. Let me make sure I say that right.
We'll just call him XXX.
Yeah, well, in the court case, they're calling him Triple X.
Right.
But when I hear Triple X, I think of porn. And I'm like, I don't know if he named himself after the porn symbol of XXX.
Well, I thought of the Ice Cube movie. Remember with Vin Diesel and...
Which one was that?
Triple X. With Vin Diesel.
I didn't watch that.
Oh, it was an action flick. Yeah.
I never seen the.
It was good. The original.
The Vin Diesel Ice Cube movie. No, but they just call him Triple X in the film. But his real name is Jahseh, Jahseh, Jahseh Onfroy, and the case of his assailants is happening right now in the state of Florida, man, and it's probably like the biggest trial in related to hip hop right now, and. There were 4 people accused of killing Triple X. 1 turned informant, and the other 3 are, I guess you could say, they're fighting for their life in court.
No doubt.
And I guess the biggest part of the case is the 4th defendant. His name is, let me get his name for y'all. He decided to become the witness, state's evidence, as they say, and his name is Robert Allen. I think off camera you call him Fat Boy.
Yeah, no doubt. You know, Robert Allen, you know, aka Fat Boy.
Fat Boy. Fat Boy's telling. He's spilling the beans.
He telling like a motherfucker. But this is the thing about it.
Yeah.
They had overwhelming evidence on these guys, you know, already. You know, they had video surveillance, you know, they had different things. Man, I'm sure you got something for us to enlighten the listeners on what's going on with this case.
Well, let's just I was gonna play a clip, but the 3 guys that are fighting for their life is Michael Boatwright, Travon Newsome, and Detrick Williams, who was the driver. Robert Allen and Detrick Williams stayed in the car, and Michael Boatwright and Travon Newsome got out, blocked Triple X, and robbed him. Man, not only did they rob him, shoot him, kill him, these dudes went and took pictures with the dude's money, and was
social media, just what you were just talking about.
They went on online and showed photos of stacks of hundreds that they took from him.
That's crazy.
But I got a clip here of Fat Boy testifying. Let me I'm going to fast forward it to the point where he talks about the actual shooting, which is at the 36-minute point. So let me get to the 36
minutes. He was up there singing.
Oh man, I think his whole testimony was a couple hours.
Whitney Houston, man, yeah.
Because I haven't even had a chance to watch this cross examination, you know, and I'm assuming each lawyer for the 3 defendants is going to cross examine this guy. This is just the prosecution on direct examination. Okay, so here, let me back up to about 35 minutes and we'll say 45 seconds. Here we go.
They being Travon Newsome and Michael Boatwright, are on the same side of the driver's side of the victim's car. What happens next?
Michael Boatwright pushes Trey like to go on the other side of the car.
Does Travon Newsome go on the other side?
Yes.
And what happens next?
He reaches inside the car and grabs. Travon Newsome reaches inside the bag. Inside the car and grabs the bag.
What bag?
Triple X's bag.
Okay, do you remember what kind of bag it was?
Yes.
Tell us.
The Louis Vuitton bag.
What does Travon Newsome do after he grabs the bag?
As he's grabbing the bag, shots are fired.
Judge, I'm going to ask him to speak into the microphone.
As he's grabbing the bag, shots are fired.
Who shoots the shots that are fired?
Michael Boatwright.
And who does he shoot?
XXX.
Where does he shoot him from? What side of the car?
Driver.
So if XXX is in the driver's seat and Michael Boatwright is in the driver's side, the shots are coming onto XXX's left side or right side? Which side?
Left side.
Okay. And what happens, how many times do you recall that Michael Boatwright shoots XXX?
Maybe like 2 or 3 times.
What does XXX do as a result of that?
Shit, died.
What does Michael Boatwright do
Exactly.
Wanted to get back in the car.
Okay, so at that point they get back in the car and they leave. They took a bag of money from the dude.
50 racks.
50 racks.
Plus jury or whatever else they got.
Yeah. So there's this whole testimony. There's some interesting things that occurred. One of the things I found interesting is in the beginning of his testimony, he testified about they needed to go get masks. So they actually go to a store to buy masks. Mm-hmm. They actually spent money. They bought masks so they can go rob somebody. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking, hey, if y'all is gangsters and thieves, why don't you just take the masks wherever you at? But I just thought that was weird that they actually went and bought masks. And then there was a part where they talked about we didn't want to be on camera, so we went across the street. And he said he didn't know, but the cameras that are on that street shot across the street too.
No doubt.
So how smart were these dudes?
They're very low IQ gangsters. Gangsters, nevertheless. They should have known that Fat Boy was, a.k.a. Robert. Is it Robert Allen?
Robert Allen.
Robert Allen was the weak link. I wouldn't have had him with me at all. Not to mention, this is how they doing. They sent him into the store to identify that it was XXX. So you went in the store already.
Yeah.
Bro, you already on camera. Even if y'all wouldn't have got caught, they was gonna find you. You already on camera. You didn't want to get out the car and do no gangster shit because you said, bro, I already went in the store. I'm on camera. So they like, okay, let you stay in the car. But you really didn't want to do no gangster shit anyway. Detrick was the driver. He was the most gangster out of all of them. Yeah, he was kind of orchestrating some of them shit.
I was about to say he quarterbacked the whole thing.
Yeah, he quarterbacked the whole thing. He should have seen this with the weak link. You know what I mean? Shouldn't have had this dude in the car with you. I'm speaking on some gangster shit, just from the gangster perspective.
Yeah.
He shouldn't have had him in the car anyway.
Robert Allen you talking about.
Robert Allen. He shouldn't have had him with y'all, period. Could have been a 3-man operation that did this. Y'all drug a dude in here, man, that didn't want to be here, y'all already knew from even what I'm seeing from him right now, homie, he wasn't all the way with he might be down sometime to do little shit, but this kind of operation, you shouldn't have had him with you. That's for one. My biggest problem with this is, I'm going to tell you my biggest problem with this. XXX never displayed a firearm. The guy that was with him, Kerr, didn't never display a firearm. Kerr escaped out of there with his life by running at a certain time. Bam. Why y'all kill him? Bro, you could have just ran off with everything he got. And a dude like this probably wouldn't even reported it. Probably would have took the L on the chin. Or if he would have reported, bro, you got armed robbery at the most, 3 to 7. You feel me? Why you shoot him when you didn't have to? He never displayed nothing, no threat. Why you kill him? And to be honest with you, I know this sounds fucking crazy as anybody in the world. If a man don't display something that's gonna harm you in a getting money gangster situation, bro, you don't harm no victims. You don't harm no victims, Alex, in a robbery if you don't need to. You don't hurt nobody in the bank if you don't have to. You don't do that, bro. You know what I mean? You get what you came to get. Y'all was looking for money. Y'all got the money. You found the money. You got the diamonds off of him. Why kill him?
No doubt. And
I got a problem with that.
I would say most bank robbers get in and out the bank without shooting one bullet.
Shooting one bullet, bro. You know what I mean? And
they might wave it around and threaten people.
No doubt. You know what I mean? Which is a crime, and I'm not, condoning that. I'm just saying, bro, why did you shoot this dude?
See, what I don't understand if did Michael Boatwright shoot and kill XXX on his own, or was that part of the mission?
It wasn't part of the mission because they robbing XXX wasn't part of the mission. Don't forget, they went to the motorcycle store to get some other shit. They didn't know he was gonna be there. I listened to the whole little get down. They bumped into him there. They sent Fat Boy up in there, Robert Allen, to go make sure, hey, is that XXX? Only certain people got that kind of BMW. He had like an i8 or some kind of hell of a BMW. bro, is that Triple X? Got the blue hair or the hair color, you know, hold on, bro, is that, hey, Fat Boy, go in there and see if that's Triple X.
Yeah.
Fat Boy went in there.
Fat Boy.
And he's identified, hey, that's Triple X.
Yeah.
They made the plan. Alex, if I go back and really look at the situation, I think they went into that motorsports spot to get some other kind of either face covering. They went in there for something else. They didn't go to rob dude. They stumbled across this robber.
But didn't they drive up next to him, and then that's when Detrick Williams, the driver, said, "Oh, that's XXX right there," and they was like, "How you know?" And he pulled out a picture on Instagram and said, "Look, that's him."
They identified him when they pulled up to the spot to do whatever they was going to do. They bumped into him there. And that's when he said, "Man, is that Triple X?" Fat Boy, go in there and see, make sure that's Triple X. Fat Boy came back out and said, "That's Triple X, bro." They said, "We finna get him." They pulled out the store, went across the street. They said, "We gonna act like we gonna get away from the camera." They knew it was a camera.
Yeah.
Fat Boy said, "I ain't jumping out the car because the camera got me in the store." They said, "Okay, you ain't got to get out." Boom. We gonna go across the street and make it seem like we left. This particular place that they were at had a entrance. They had two entrances, one exit. So all they had to do was block off the exit. They made that plan right then and there. Matter of fact, Fat Boy testified to that. They said, "Well, when you went in the store to identify Triple X, as you was told, what was the plan?" He said it wasn't a plan. You know what I mean? I just was told to go make sure see if that was him. Once I came back and identified that was him, that's when the plan was made. So at the end of the day, they stumbled across this robbery. Alex, there wasn't no setup. It wasn't no intention to kill him. It wasn't nothing. Y'all got easy bread with no resistance, and you killed the man. That's foul.
Now, do you think that the shooter, who Michael Boatwright, is Detrick Williams, Fat Boy Robert Allen, and Travon Newsome just as responsible for that shooting if Michael Boatwright did that shooting on his own?
Yeah, you accessory to murder. You know what I mean?
But let's say that wasn't the plan. They said we're just going to get his money and get out of there.
It's a consideration if you do what Fat Boy did. If you come cooperate and say, "Bro, that wasn't part of the plot. That wasn't part of the plan." You know what I mean? And you go turn state's evidence and do that. Only thing about you, Newsome, you got out the car with the heater. So, you know, you was ready for whatever happened. You know what I mean? Fat Boy the only one that ain't getting. I'm trying to see what he gonna get on the back end for. You know, he sung like a bird, bro.
Yeah, he did.
By rules, you wasn't supposed to say a motherfucking thing, homie. If you got in that car to go do some gangster shit, you supposed to took it on the chin like everybody else. If everybody in that car got 100 years, you supposed to got 100 years with them, because that's what the fuck you jumped in that car to do. If you didn't want to be there, you should have jumped out and ran before they took off, or should have told them, "Let me out, bro. I ain't with this shit." I guarantee you they would have let you out. They probably beat you up, but they would have let you out. You know, so my whole point is, and then you talking about robbing people and killing people is two certain things. I know people personally, close friends of mine, go do a robbery. It turned into something else. You know what I mean? On multiple occasions, close friends of mine. You know what I mean? So I don't condone robbers. You know what I mean? But at the same time, it's not killing somebody. You know what I mean? You know, two different things. And when it turns into something bigger, yeah, Travon jumped out, Newsome jumped out, Boatwright jumped out. Y'all gonna get it. Detrick, we already know you was the brains, you was the G homie, you was the, you know what I mean, you know, the line pusher. Let's go press on Fat Boy. He gonna tell it all. Even the prosecution know he wasn't.
He wasn't built for this, huh?
They knew he wasn't built for it.
Okay, so here's my thing. Here in California, we used to have the felony murder rule, meaning if you out there just committing a felony, but then a murder happens that's not planned, but a murder happens as a result of the felony you committed, then you're a murderer too. Mm-hmm. But in recent years, they changed the law a little bit to where they're letting people out that were just sitting in the back seat and they weren't part of the murder. They might have been part of the felony, but they weren't part of the murder. So the felony murder rule is being modified in the state of California in the last couple of years.
No doubt. I'm waiting for the little homie to come home right now. He in the same situation. You know, only thing holding him up, I think he got called a cell phone before, so they kind of giving him a little slack on it, but had no idea what was going to happen. You know what I mean? And he was put in a situation. So I do know about this law. You know, the one who actually, we were supposed to be doing this and this happened. The dude who didn't have shit to do with it per se wasn't a gunman or shit like them dudes coming home, which that they should. You know what I mean? Because this how real shit happens. I shouldn't be responsible for the intellect or the mind frame. This other dude just smoked some dope or did some this or snorted a line and wanted to do some crazy shit. I didn't sign up for that. I said we was gonna go beat these dudes up because they jumped me. I didn't say stab nobody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I do believe that those dudes should be home, you know, and it's a lot of situations that actually happened, Alex.
A lot.
Yeah, homie, bro, that ain't what the plan was. You know what I mean? So, but in this situation, that's probably where Fat Boy getting his relief. Plus he didn't sign up for that. They said let's go rob some people. They end up turning it into a murder. You know, and the Fat Boy, hold on. Now, hey, dude, bro, we said we was gonna rob some dudes. I could do 5. You know,
but the photos of him after they robbed him, he's holding up all the money and smiling and looking like he was with it.
Nah, everybody in the car knew he wasn't. You know what I mean? But he was there, so he should have got his cut. But at the end of the day, bro, they got fucking $50,000 between 4 people and a fucking necklace and a watch or something like that. That ain't no fucking money to kill nobody, Alex. That's barely enough money to even get the time for the robbery. I mean, in my eyes, you know what I mean? $50,000, what you gonna get 12.5? You know what I mean? You know.
Hey, they got more than what allegedly Jabba and those guys did at the jewelry store in Tustin got. Didn't they get like what'd they say the jewelry was worth?
They didn't kill nobody.
They didn't kill anybody, yeah.
You know what I mean? Them dudes basically really got a robbery, bro.
Yeah.
They got an armed robbery. You know what I mean? They got an armed robbery.
But they got to split a certain amount of money. I don't know, was it 4 or 5? No, there was like 8, right?
Yeah,
like
it was a bunch of them. Yeah.
So there's really no money. And then here, you mentioned 4 people earlier. Like this is a 4 people operation. When you have, the more people you have doing something like this, the more likelihood it's going to go bad and someone's going to tell.
Well, this is the thing about it.
You got 2 people. 2 people can do this if they know what they're doing.
Why the fuck you gonna do some robberies with 4 motherfuckers? Because the average person you rob gonna have $200-$300 on, if that. You know what I mean? So, bro, we went out here to risk our lives, homie, for $800 at the end of the night or the end of the day, and we done robbed 4 people. That mentality right there is some bullshit. You know what I mean? You know, for 1. For 2, you know what I mean? Like I said, why am I gonna go? I can go by myself and rob some motherfuckers for $200-$300. You get what I'm saying? I can go alone. I'm not gonna tell them. I said I can go alone, unless they was finna rob. But what if they was gonna rob? Y'all didn't have a plan. Y'all just say go rob some people according to what Robert Allen testified to.
But they knew that this was XXX and he got some money.
Alex, they didn't go to rob XXX. They ran into XXX. If you go back and you check it out all the way,
yeah,
they bumped into him, bro.
But once they saw him, they said, "Let's get him."
Yeah. Oh, no doubt. No doubt.
Let's get him. He must got some money on him.
And he did.
And
y'all got it. Why y'all shooting?
Now here's a part that I want to be a little critical of, and I'm not trying to victim bash, but when you're walking around with 50 racks and you probably got what 10,000 worth of jewelry on, there was a part where a Fat Boy testified. The prosecutor asked him, "Did it look like XXX thought he was in fear or in danger?" And he said, "No, he just looked like, everything was cool." That means that he wasn't on alert. XXX got caught slipping, and not slipping in the way that you or I might get caught slipping, because we don't walk around with 50, 100,000 in our pocket. But when you're walking around with 100 racks, 50 racks, or whatever he had on him, you got to be on alert.
Man, but this is the thing about it. I'm gonna be honest with you, Alex. Even if you ain't alert, take my shit. I lost. Y'all won. Fuck you gotta kill me for. That's the whole thing about this right here. Y'all turned a robbery that y'all was easily done. Y'all had to do easy. Maybe it would have stepped up at XXX game. Oh shit, I'll be out here slipping. I got. It won't happen again. Take that on the chin. Look, I'm not even finna call the police because I was slipping. I'm gonna take that on the chin. He went to go get $250 out the bank. The bank said we don't got $250 in cash right now. They gave him $50. He had more money. He could have took that on the chin. I'm telling you just how he looking. 50,000 ain't no fucking whole lot of motherfucking money. You know what I mean? Unless you got blue hair, you a rapper, and me and you go to somewhere with 50,000. Ain't nobody even finna rob us. They don't know we got 50,000 on. We don't look like, we ain't in a Ferrari or no certain type of car. But anyway, you got the money. You got the jury. You got me. Why you shooting me if you got me? That's the part where I'm thinking Boatwright, who they saying was the shooter, bro, was it some jealousy somewhere? Was it some envy somewhere? Was it some drugs somewhere? What was your mind thinking to say, Travon Newsome already grabbed the bag with the money? Fuck is you doing? I don't get it, Alex.
Well, the photos that they took after holding all the money, they didn't seem like they had an issue because they all smiling. They looked like they happy. So whatever Michael Boatwright did, they seem to co-sign it after the fact. You know what I mean?
Right. But you didn't have a choice after that.
Yeah. Well, you don't got to be taking pictures and flashing the money.
Right, you don't.
You know, you can be like, hey, don't put me on this.
I'm
picture.
Out of here. Yeah, I'm out of here.
I ain't taking no pictures turning $100 bills into fans. Nah,
they was doing that.
Yeah,
they was doing it immediately.
Same day because they got the same clothes on. They got the same clothes on. But
it ain't funny, man. It's just, the stupidity. Though, just let's be honest, the stupidity.
And it made me
look, we kill a motherfucker, right, for some bread.
Yeah.
And I'm on Instagram, on F General 1 on Instagram, and shit, fanning the money and shit. Bro, that's the dumbest shit in the world, man.
It is. And, it made me think of the YG video that we talked about a few episodes, How to Rob a Rapper. Go back to How to Rob a Rapper, listen to those lyrics. And XXX was in a flashy car. That's what caught their attention first. Then they used Instagram, social media to, that's really him.
Yeah.
And they got him. And part of this is because he's slipping and he's not on alert and he's not paying attention to his surroundings. And this is what all these, not just rappers, but anybody who's a celebrity that's got cash on them, that's driving an expensive car, you got to be, you got to watch your back more than these guys are doing. PNB Rock is another one.
Right.
I think PNB Rock was super slipping.
Yeah, no doubt.
But XXX also. But at the end of the day, Michael Boatwright, I believe he deserves all the time. I'm not so sure. If Detrick Williams, the guy who quarterbacked the robbery, and Travon Newsome were down with the shooting, down to kill XXX. If they weren't down to kill XXX, it was just a robbery. I feel they should just get the robbery, but I know how they do it.
Right.
Everyone's going to get the murder.
Unfortunately, yeah.
So, but I don't know, what their mindset is in terms of, I don't know if when they got in the car, they was all mad at Michael, like, why you shoot him,
No, real shit.
Why'd you do that?
Could have been that dude. What the fuck you doing?
Yeah, we didn't come here for this.
Right.
But, the trial is still going on right now. So, it seems like it's a wrap, but, they're going to try to defend themselves. But yeah, Robert Allen, Fat Boy, is the star of the case. And lastly, before we close this out, did you see the part where one of the deputies in Florida testified that one of the defendants, Newsome specifically, and Fat Boy crossed paths during the lockup?
Yeah, I seen that.
And Newsome had some words for him.
Hell yeah, you lying. You rat motherfucker. You working for the white folks now. And
yeah. So this whole informing and snitching thing, it's real, and unfortunately, Newsome, Boatwright, and Williams is going to be on the short end of the stick of this one when the jury comes back with a guilty verdict, I'm assuming. But hey, you got a new video, you got a new interview on your platform with Bam. How'd that go?
Oh man, it went awesome, man. OG Crip dude, been a Crip since I was born. Got some knowledge from him, got some insight on him, man. Y'all go tap into FG Unleashed. Alex, before we head up out of here, no word on the sentencing on Eric Holder still, huh?
No, Eric Holder will be sentenced later this month.
Okay.
Later this month. I'll be there. I forget what date it was, but
yeah, we'll tap back in on it. But yeah, FG Unleashed, come in, tap in, man. Great video. Between some G's, man. A young, I can't say a young G, but some OGs and me myself. And catch me on Instagram at FGeneral1, man.
Hey, one thing I found unique about that interview you did with Bam, it's outdoors in the park, and you got it set up like a podcast outside. I don't think I've seen anybody do that. An outside podcast.
Trying to be innovative.
Yeah, an outdoor podcast, and that was tight. So tap in with me, Alex Alonso 101 on Twitter and Instagram, and I will be at the Eric Holder sentencing later this month, and I also will be at the sentencing for a dude from Canada. I'm forgetting his name right now. the one that allegedly shot Megan Thee Stallion in the foot.
Yeah, Tory Lanez.
Tory Lanez. His sentencing is later this month. It's not on the same day as Eric Holder's, but I don't think Tory Lanez sentencing is going to be really a sentencing. I think they're going to delay it again. But I'll tap in with you guys for that, and make sure you tap into the Street TV YouTube channel where I got all my interviews and clips from this podcast. And make sure if you're listening to us on Apple, leave us a comment and review. And if you're listening to us on Spotify or any other podcast platform, make sure you're following us there. And thanks for tapping in with another fire episode of Streets and Scholars.